Hello everyone and welcome to STRI. Here with Glenn Kirby from Syngenta, and we're doing the Syngenta Research Day station today, and we're here on a trial that we've been running for most of the summer. In fact, from springtime really, and some of you might have already seen some of the information that we've been releasing about it. It was initially called the lockdown trial, and then it morphed into something else that we called the unlock and play trial. And it's been an interesting few months of research and data collection. The rationale for the trial obviously was when we went into lockdown, how do we manage golf courses appropriately? And as we moved through the summer and those restrictions were eased, it became unlock and play as people went back onto the golf course, and actually golf courses got pretty busy. So that was the rationale. We've been releasing videos talking about the trial throughout the spring and summer, and they've been pretty well received, I think. And so we thought it was a good opportunity to talk about the trial in a bit more depth at the virtual Research Day event, which is going to involve releasing videos throughout October on different pieces of research that we're doing, as we would normally talk about if you could actually be here at STRI in person. So I'll pass you on to Glenn now, who's going to talk a little bit more about the rationale behind what we've done in this trial and how that continued through the summer.
Thanks, Mark. So yeah, we set up this trial back at the beginning of the year when lockdown was first announced, and primarily we wanted to look at how Premo could help course managers through this difficult period. We were seeing staff furloughed, people with reduced maintenance budgets, essential maintenance only being dictated to them, and we wanted to see how we could use products to try and help people during this period. So we set up this trial, we set up a live reporting system where Mark's done a great job of reporting back, because no one's been able to get up here and visit because we've all been locked down. And Mark's done that for us, and he's talked us through, and we now just want to run through some of the conclusions and some of the things we've learned this year.
So the premise of the trial was low intensity management, really, to match up with the recommendations that came from the RNA when we went into lockdown. So we're looking at different mowing regimes within the trial, where we're mowing the turf 5 days a week, 3 days a week and once a week, and we've got Premo applications where we're applying Premo every 7 days, every 50 growth degree days and every 100 growth degree days, and comparing that with no application of Premo. Low nutrition in the trial, but just a little bit of fertiliser to keep it ticking over, and we applied some Quilibra to make sure that the water management in the trial was optimised. And but the key phrase there is growth degree days. And Glenn, what are growth degree days?
Growth degree days are a really simple formula. You take the maximum temperature in a day and the minimum temperature a day, do a bit of mathematics on it, and then you come up with this growth degree day figure. Now, traditionally, we've done that in a spreadsheet or on a bit of paper. Syngenta have set up a growth degree day model on our Greencast website, so you can just put your postcode in and it does it all for you. But we've done that because when we look at Premo applications, the longevity you get out of Premo is very related to the temperature. The warmer it is, the shorter a period of time it will last. The cooler it is, the longer it will last. So we wanted to look at how can we maximise suppression through this lockdown period to minimise the amount of maintenance you use, that you put in place. And talking to people in the field, they get very hung up on trying to hit exact growth degree day models. Don't worry too much about that. Look at it as a window. We've got really precise because this is a trial, but it's never going to fall on a day when you've got a sprayer available. That perfect growth degree day is always going to fall at the weekend or on a day when it's too windy or when your sprayer has broken down. And what we found by doing this was during the spring when it was cooler, if we weren't using a growth degree day model, we really increased the amount of suppression that we got, which in this situation was great, what we were trying to achieve. But in a normal situation, in a normal year, we really shouldn't be trying to maximise the suppression or reduce growth during the spring. So using a growth degree day model through that period would really help you get consistent results.
Okay, so again, in line with low intensity management programs, we relaxed the height of cut in this trial, initially to 5mm, which is longer than what you would normally cut a golf green at, but because there was no play at the time, we weren't looking for good playing quality, we were looking for good plant health to see us through the lockdown period and make sure that the turf was healthy coming out of that period. And that was, and the results really, what we saw was that we saw actually mowing on a regular basis was applying wear to the turf, and we were getting poorer turf quality from the plots that were being mown 5 days a week compared to those that were only mown once a week. And that was just it was quite a significant result for us, because the turf health was really good in those once a week mowing plots. But as we reduced the height of cut, as we got closer to play, and where we were predicting that golf courses were going to open up again, we reduced the height of cut, and those turf quality values turned around quite interestingly. And the ones that were mown once a week, we were taking off too much vegetation, too much was being removed, and they weren't looking as good. So that was interesting, and the pre-mow applications were very important at that point, because they were keeping the growth regulated throughout, so we didn't need to take as much material off on those plots that were being mown, whether they were mown once a week, 3 times a week, or 5 times a week. So that was the benefit of pre-mow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really surprised at the uplift in turf quality for the reduced maintenance. But then I started looking at it and thinking, well, actually this makes sense. You want to be matching your maintenance programs to the amount of growth you have. And don't confuse at this stage, because I did and I wasn't getting to visit on site, turf quality with putting surfaces. We do a lot of work out in the field, and you're doing a lot of work out there to create great putting surfaces. But understand the knock-on impact that additional wear has on the turf quality and that turf health. So one of the things I learned from this is to really match the amount of maintenance you're putting into the turf and try and match it to the level of growth you've got. And if you are going heavy or using pre-mow, be considerate to the amount of growth reduction you're getting there, and still make sure you're recognising that the level of maintenance needs to match the amount of growth you're getting.
Okay, as we got into May, the restrictions that were put in place due to the pandemic were starting to ease up. So by the middle of May, golf courses opened again, under a few restrictions at first, but after, by the time we got into June, golf courses were becoming really, really quite busy, and there was a lot of play on those golf courses, and we wanted to evolve the trial to reflect what was happening in the real world. So the trial changed. We decided to call the trial Unlock and Play, and we wanted to focus on stress management and how the different stresses that the turf was coming under, from increased play, hot weather, perhaps dry conditions, light intensity, those kind of things, when you've still got staff on furlough and you're still really operating at a fairly low intensity management program, see how the turf reacted to that. So we divided the top 2 sections of the trial into what we called standard management and a stress management program, and we kept the bottom third of the trial to continue the growth degree day model and in the investigations that we were doing in terms of clipping yield and how the pre-mow max was affecting growth degree days. So I'm going to pass you on to Glenn again now to just describe what we did in terms of standard management and stress management, and how those different techniques compared.
Yeah, so we went into this process, we took the 3-cut trial and the 5-cut trial, and we brought them both back to 3 cuts, so they were getting the same levels of maintenance now. And the standard management practice was a greens master for fertiliser, and the stress management practice that we're talking about was adjusted for the nutrition, so they both got the same amount of N all the way across, but it had Rider, which is our pigment, which is great at reducing light stress, and HiCure, which is a biostimulant that we're doing a lot of trials work on at the moment that we're hoping to launch in the UK very soon. So we had this combination of Rider and HiCure. And what we saw was a slight lift up in colour, not massive gains, but marginal gains. And everything we're doing here is going to be marginal because it is against a good, solid management practice. And the other thing we saw as a slight uplift in turf quality, nothing massive again, but we didn't deliver loads of stress. And that's one of the things as a turf manager, you're kind of preparing your turf for high levels of stress through the season, but on the flip side of that, you're hoping that it never actually comes. And we kind of ticked on through here in Yorkshire, not really hitting any high temperatures, and then all of a sudden, kind of beginning of August, we started to hit some reasonable temperatures. And at that stage, we saw this separation of kind of turf colour and turf quality and the improved appearance and performance that we saw in that stress management program. So we tease some differences out there, nothing huge, but some nice marginal gains, particularly through that stress period.
So to just wrap it up, the results from the trial were really interesting. We got some good results. The stress management programme that we applied to the turf improved turf quality, it increased turf colour, and the Primo Max applications throughout the 5 months of both trials regulated growth and improved the evenness of the finish on the turf as well throughout the trial. So interesting results against the backdrop of really quite strange times and an unusual summer. So I mean, what did you take out of it most, Ben?
Yeah, there's a few things I took out of it. I've learned that if we really want to suppress that growth, and we can just stack Primo on top of each other, on top of each other, on top of each other, not necessarily a good thing for all times and all years, but in this situation it was a real benefit. We also learned that even though we were going at that maximum rate on that tightest window, we were adding no additional nutrition to that Primo. Some of these plots have had Primo every 7 days, all summer long. We saw no issues with plant health whatsoever. We saw no downside to turf quality, and we saw massive increases, or really nice increases in colour as well with that. So from my point of view, it gave me real confidence in it as a product, but it's very difficult to get that application one. You can use as much of it if you want to really reduce that clipping yield as you would like to. Also learned it's quite important to match your turf maintenance practices with your growth, so something to be aware of in the spring, and I think that was really useful this year, but actually a really useful lesson that we can take into most springs, because I think people do have a habit of overworking their surfaces in those springs, and maybe some lessons to learn there. Really pleased with the stress management treatments and how we lifted things. We're not in the most stressful area of the country, we're not seeing regular 30 degrees here in Yorkshire, but we do see that around the country, and it gave me the confidence that that is going to be enough to lift things. And whilst here in this trial, across all those treatments, we didn't see massive differences in turf quality, what it did was put the plant in a much stronger position so that we can work it a little bit harder and create better putting surfaces. And one of the key things that I've come away from this with is the difference between creating a healthier plant and a better putting surface are two slightly different things. You're always balancing them a little. You want a healthier plant so you create a better putting surface, but sometimes the work you're doing to create that surface is detrimental to that plant health as well. So you've got to get this balance right. And yeah, it was a fascinating year. Thank you for all your work and reporting back to us weekly, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure as well, Ben. Yeah, love doing it. So if you can, join us this Thursday. We're going to be having a webinar to discuss what we've talked about today, the Unlock and Play trial and the lockdown trials, and you can ask any questions that you want, get further details from us, and really ask us any questions about any other trial work that you've been interested in the past as well. So thank you very much.